Hi, I'm John Moses from Charlie's Cavalry, bringing you this week's Coaches Show with Charger head coach Pete Raccomando. The Coaches Show every week will bring you previews of Charger football as well as recaps from past weeks, as well as spending some quality time with Pete. Coach, Hurricane Irene ended your camp a couple of days early. Can you talk a little bit about your training camp and some of the surprises that you had?
Surprisingly, we got all the practices in we were supposed to for camp. We finished that. We actually pushed our Saturday practice up a little bit. We were able to get out of here on time. We lost the practice on Sunday, but that was just a helmet practice and just sort of a walkthrough anyway. So, camp was terrific. We had a great spirit, great energy the whole time, and our senior leadership was excellent throughout camp. As far as getting the guys motivated and keeping them going, and we did a great job. And I think, for the most part, both sides of the ball looked really strong, and they were flying around and they were executing at a high level.
One of the biggest storylines for your team this season is how they respond to the loss to St. Anselm at the end of last year. You've said that on that day, your team ate a whole big slice of humble pie. How did you address that when your team first arrived at camp?
Not really. That's last year, and we're going to put last year in the books, and we're not going to worry too much about it. I think they've learned from the experience. Being prepared for every game, and not being afraid to lose. I think that was the theory in that game. When you came out of it, you looked at the film, and we just did things that were uncharacteristic of 2010 football team.
Coach, right now, what is your team's biggest strength?
Right now, I would say our leadership, our veterans. We're a veteran football team. That's why the day off for Irene really didn't, I don't think, affected us in any way. We have a really good veteran group, and they're ready to go. And I think they're excited to play this game this week.
Are there any areas of your team that you're not confident in, a place where an injury or two would really hurt your team?
The offensive line right now, we have 7 solid players at that position. I think we have some really good, young, talented players that, haven't really come of age yet. So I think if we had an injury there, we'd be okay. 2 or 3, I think we'd struggle a little bit.
This season, you were the preseason pick to win the Northeast 10 Conference, and your team's playing from a position that they're not familiar with, the favorite. How do you think your team's mindset has been affected by the preseason ranking?
I think no, because most of the guys that are here now have been here last year, and they realize, last year we were picked to finish somewhere in the middle of the road, and we finished up at the top, and those rankings mean nothing. That and a token will get you on the subway, so we don't really pay attention to that.
Ryan Olszewski wrote his name all over the record books in 2009, yet in 2010 his numbers were down across the board, but his efficiency was way up. What improvements do you need to see from Ryan, or have you seen, that can take your team to the next level?
I think Ryan's fine. I think he did all the things we asked him to do last year. In 2009, he did all the things we asked him to do, which was to throw the ball 55 times a game, and he did that very effectively. And that last year we really wanted him to focus on being a better team leader and being more of a game manager than a guy that's going to take the game over. And when he had to, he could. We just didn't ask him to too much. And I think this year it's just taking that next step from a film study standpoint to make himself even more efficient and throw even more touchdowns. So we're excited.
With Victor Jones coming off a 1,000-yard season, Mike DeCaro, and Anthony Tillman, you really have 3 running backs you feel comfortable with handing the ball to at any time. Do you have any experience with a 3-headed monster in the backfield?
We did a little bit when I was at Albany. We had 3 backs who were really talented, and we were able to get them all roles in our offense. And we're forgetting Brian Alston, who's a heck of a back too. He's just a redshirt freshman, and he's really outstanding. Had a really outstanding camp as well. So we have 4 guys that we're going to get in the mix this year. And we have some packages where we're going to get them, get more of those guys some reps on the field, and they'll all play special teams, and I think that will help our team as well.
Some college football teams are notorious for scheduling cupcake games to pad the win total in the non-conference schedule. I get the sense you don't feel that way about Westchester University. What do you expect them to be like?
No, they're going to be an excellent opponent. They had a 4-7 season last year. It was their first losing season in 11 years. They were in the playoffs a couple of years ago. This is a good football team that just had to play a lot of young guys last year, and I think it'll be a different group out there this year. When you watch them on film, they're flying around. They're just, for some reason, they're not making some plays on either side of the ball. But They're very talented, and they're very well coached, and they have a plan on both sides of the ball. So, I mean, this is a great test for our football team and to see where we are as a program.
You're actually familiar with Westchester University a little bit in your days here as an assistant in the mid-'90s. Talk a little bit about those games and how they help you prepare for this Saturday.
Oh, they were great games. You know, afterwards you look at those games and really whoever won, the other team, you know, played just as well and probably could have won the game. You know, I think we had one overtime game, one tie. We had you know, the game in '97 when we went to the national title. We won the game on the last drive of the football game, and you know, they've been battles, and they've been coming right down to the wire, and I would expect this game to be no different.
I imagine you've watched the film from those games. Is there anything you've picked up from those games?
We haven't watched any of those old games. Bill Swan, who's the head coach, was not the coach back then. Rick Daniels was. So there's some things that are different, obviously, about the systems. We watched them a little bit on film from last year, and you know, we were able to pick up some things on film that, you know, any good coach would, and you know, I'm sure they did the same with us.
Last season, your team was undefeated in the non-conference schedule, defeating Lincoln University and Seton Hill University by a combined score of 64-17. Talk a little bit about the challenges in your non-conference schedule this year.
Yeah, I mean, we got, you know, Westchester, who's a perennial, you know, top 1 or 2 in the Pennsylvania State Conference, and we have St. Augustine out of North Carolina, who had 9 wins last year, and then William & Mary, who's a FCS team, who's picked to finish first in the CAA conference. So we're challenged this year. We're challenged. We're going to have to bring our A game in each one of those games in order to be successful.
In your preparations for this Saturday, have you pinpointed an area or two that are going to be really critical for your team to win?
Well, we got to play defense. I mean, our defense and special teams have got to be excellent. They have a game-breaking wide receiver that we have to contain and keep under wraps and not let him beat us with the big play. And you know, we have to do well on special teams. You know, they're very well coached on the special teams, and we have to, you know, we have to match that, if not do a little bit better, in order to keep us in that game. So I think those are really going to be the focal points this week.
And finally, give us one player that you think's flown under the radar a little bit, a guy that might come out and really help your team that nobody really knows about.
I think Bernard Risco, one of our safeties, has really come into his own this camp. He played last year, started for us, and you know, was a quarterback in '09. I think this year's really done a great job of picking up the nuances of that position, and I think he'll surprise some people. And I think that, you know, Mike Gomes has sort of had a rebirth for us. He had a great 2009. Last year, he played way too many plays for us on defense, so we were able to limit him a little bit here for the number of plays, and he's had a tremendous camp. We feel really good about him.
Coach, good luck this Saturday.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
So that'll wrap up this week's Coaches Show. Be sure to tune in next week as we preview St. Augustine's College and recap a little bit from the game against Westchester University. For more, be sure to log on to NewHavenChargers.com, or for a completely student perspective on everything athletics New Haven, be sure to log into charliescavalry.wordpress.com.